So, Josh, as you know, just got back from the Super Bowl, and I met many great people, some incredibly fun Philadelphia fans. But of course, I found myself wishing that the Bills were there because Eagles and Bills fans together on Bourbon Street, which is already crazy, would have been next level. There would definitely be no tables left, and I'm pretty sure all the booze would be gone too. And we will leave no table unturned on this episode of The Back Nine. Yeah, so Josh, it was an incredible experience, my first ever Super Bowl, and it was epic. And the Eagles, I loved seeing the Eagles win. And we don't have to go too much into this, but if the Bills couldn't be there, seeing the Chiefs lose was very, very therapeutic for me, I'm just going to say. And that's, very, very pleased with the outcome.
First, let me comment about what you said about Bills fans on Bourbon Street. I don't think it matters what street they're on. You could be on Lower Broad in Nashville. You could be on 6th Street in Austin. You could be in Olathe, Kansas, and it would be wild at a Super Bowl with Bills fans, although I don't recommend them having this Super Bowl in Olathe, Kansas, which I'm sure is lovely. I've never been there. But how would you have felt? It would clearly have been a different experience for you as a Bills fan had the Bills been in the game. Could you have been as polite as you were to the Eagles fans that you met and befriended and are now walking away with all kinds of golf dates with?
Yeah, well, maybe not quite, but I think I just had a symmetry with them because the same type of fan. Like, it's just, it's ingrained in you, and it's just something that was cool about the Eagles fans. Here's what I wouldn't have wanted to do. Gone back out to Bourbon Street after one of those teams lost.
Right.
That would have been a little bit of a nightmare. No doubt about it. So
I've only been to one Super Bowl in person, and that was also in New Orleans. It was 100 years ago. It was when the Monsters of the Midway Bears beat the Patriots in whatever year that was. The 85 season, 86.
You're definitely on the back nine.
Clearly, if I remember that. Well, what I remember, because the Patriots weren't supposed to be there. They upset the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. And so I remember walking on Bourbon Street after the game, and all the Patriots fans gleefully chanting, "We're number 2." Which was terrific. It was exactly the right attitude.
That's great. Well, there's no easy transition for this, but we have a tremendous guest. Actually, though, there is, because it is the bookend for our season.
Right.
I met this woman on a flight, and if you did listen to this entire season, Josh met our first guest of the season, Deneen Milner, on a flight. So we're kind of bookending with that. We got to talking about her life, and it is an incredible story of back nine resilience, making it through some stuff that a lot of us, could never make it through or don't, and just inspiring to talk to for the short time we had from, I believe it was Atlanta to Palm Beach. Welcome to the show, Julie Miles. Hi, Julie. Great to have you.
Hi, darling.
So nice to meet you.
So you have been a very, very prestigious jeweler. You do things both on Worth Avenue and across luxury brands and luxury cruise ships across the world. But it hasn't been always that easy for you. I want to go slowly here into your journey. You're Australian. Give us the beginning of your journey and how you came to the United States, and then we'll get into the pivot that you had to make at some point in your life.
I moved to America 28 years ago. I can't believe it's been 28 years. It just goes so fast. Life goes so fast. I originally worked in marketing in New York City, and it was a 6-month contract. I was supposed to go home. I went travelling, and just like any good old Australian, I didn't go back. I just kept going, and I ended up in LA, and I ended up living in LA. I knew one person there and stayed, and ultimately moved up to Park City, Utah, and lived there for 17 years, and then a few years back moved to Palm Beach, Florida, and here I am now. So I've been around.
I had a cancer scare. Yours, I guess there's all relative scares. Mine was stage 2. You actually had stage 4 cancer at 47. So, certain people, if you've listened to some of this journey, my journey, you know that I went through something at 47. But tell us about that diagnosis and what happened to you at 47.
So first of all, I had no idea that I was sick. And I travelled a lot with my job internationally, and when I look back now, I definitely was exhausted, but I just blamed it on the international travel. So, if you're, just on a 14-hour flight to the other side of the world and you're exhausted, you think, oh, yeah, I must be getting a bit older because I can't handle, the jet lag anymore. But so when I look back, that was probably the first sign. Ultimately, there wasn't really that much, but I started just having a little sort of pain, and I had appendiceal cancer, which is very, very rare. Back then, it was only about 600 people a year that would get it, and most people died from it. You know, it was very low chance of survival. So I thought I had indigestion, so I just ignored it and carried on. It was very close to Christmas. I jumped on a plane and went to visit friends in New Jersey. And to cut a really long story short, appendix burst. I end up in an ambulance, rushed into surgery. I was septic. The next day the doctor came to me and said, "Why did you leave it so long?" And I said, "I had no idea. I did not know that really there was anything, you know, that bad." And he said, it's one of the worst cases that I've ever seen, you know, in surgery. We thought we were going to lose you. And I mean, that's when you really go, what are you talking about? You know, you have no, you know, clue. So that was when the journey started. And because it was so serious, I had to stay in hospital for a week. And of course, it was through Christmas and New Year. And I was about to check out and head back to Park City. And he came to me and said, "You're not going anywhere. You have cancer." And seriously, and I've talked to many people about what happened when you were diagnosed. How did you feel? This is very common for people to think, "You stupid bloody idiot. Obviously you got my test results have been mixed up because I don't have cancer. There's nothing wrong with me." And I seriously thought that. I remember just looking at him thinking, "You got this wrong. This is not me." And he said, if we don't go and do surgery, take you back in and do surgery tomorrow, if you walk out of here, you'll be a walking time bomb because we've already, you know, done the surgery and, you know, basically the cancer, you know, the air has hit the cancer and, you know, we've got to go back in. So at that time they diagnosed me with colon cancer because they can't tell the difference until they go in. So anyway, I put him off for another day and, you know, of course, calling the family in Australia and, you know, I was there on my own. And so the second day I went in and I had a colon resection. And then from those test results, it came back and said you have stage 3B colon cancer, which means that you have cancer in lymph nodes. That's what the B is for, and it depends on how many that, you know, it's spread to. So it was quite serious right from, you know, that time. So anyway, I ended up making my way back to Park City. I started treatment at the Huntsman Cancer Institute in Salt Lake City, which is an absolutely amazing, amazing hospital. I got an amazing oncologist, which I have to tell you his name, Dr. John Weiss. I always called him my boyfriend, and he's my favourite person in the world. Yeah. And, you know, he's one of the reasons why I'm here now. And anyway, I've always considered myself pretty intuitive, and I kept having these dreams, even when I was in hospital after the surgery, that I had to have another surgery. And they kept saying to me, "No, you don't, no, you don't." And I said, "I can't, this dream keeps happening every night." So the Dr. Weiss says, "Do you want to have a CT scan?" I went, "Yep, let's do it." And they found 2 huge tumours on my liver.
Wow.
And that was
Incredible.
That was within a month. So I went from one doctor, one oncologist and a nurse to a panel of doctors with, you know, clipboards type thing, you know, because it was such an aggressive cancer. You know, everyone had to confer on that. So that's how it all started. I started chemo. I had to do 6 rounds of chemo. Then the plan was to do, we had to shrink those tumours down. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is because I did respond to chemo, so they were able to go in, do a liver resection, and then I had another 6 rounds of chemo after that. So it was about 12 months of treatment. There was a lot of, you know, ups and downs, and got a lot of second opinions from MD Anderson and Sloan Kettering, and they, because it was such an unusual cancer, they conferred with Huntsman. So I really had 3 hospitals all working together. So if we had to make a decision, I would say, well, what did MD Anderson say? Because they definitely didn't agree on the liver resection. There was, one of them was saying, "I don't think she should have it," and the other 2 were saying yes. And we didn't go ahead until all 3 agreed. But the one thing I should say is that the month that I realised that, you know, I was stage 4, That same month, I was also diagnosed with scleroderma, which is an autoimmune connective tissue disorder, which, a lot of people die from as well. So, right now I'm a little bit croaky because I'm tired. Well, that's part of the scleroderma, as well. So for that month, things weren't looking real great that month.
So first, 3 cheers to Dr. Weiss and to your panels of doctors and your hospitals and to you.
Thanks.
When you went from the feeling perfectly healthy, other than thinking you had a case of indigestion, to a month later discovering cancer in lots of different places in your body. Emotionally, how did you handle that? How did you take that news? How did you tell your friends and your family? What was it like when you had to tell them, at that point and over the first couple of months, and what is it like knowing that you have all that cancer in your body?
That's a good question. I think that for me, the way that I handled it, you go numb. It's such a shock that I think I took up swearing and you really, seriously, all day, because every time I would talk to a doctor, I'd get something else. And so you sort of just go, oh, whack, yeah. All day long. Really, that's how it is. There's no other words that you can say. There's no other, you've just lost control of your life. What else can you say?
But you seem to surround yourself with positivity. When we were speaking about this, I was struck by the positivity you had around other cancer patients. Maybe you could speak to that, and then maybe where that came from, the hope that you had.
So my mum passed away when she was 61, and I'm 61 right now. I've only just passed the age that she died a couple of months ago. Mum was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS.
Oh, wow.
At 59, they gave her a 3-month, they just said, look, you've only got 3 months left. Just like that. Shocking. Straight out of, we never ever, she didn't expect it, we didn't expect it. She lasted a year and a half. And one of the things that I will never ever forget is how positive she was during that. And I'm the oldest of 6. She calls the whole family in and says, I want to live the rest of my days with happiness. I don't want you sidestepping around me and, being all morbid or miserable. I just want to have fun. And, our family had always been, fun and everything. So we carried on as, fun Australians who play jokes on each other and drink and carry on and all that. And Mum loved it. And so when I got sick, first of all, it's a shock. So I went numb, but then you go into woe is me, and, I started crying and I can't believe this is happening, and I'm 47, I'm too young to get cancer. And then one of my best friends said the best thing that he could have ever said to me. He said, I'm going to take you to a psychiatrist. And I'm like there blubbering away, and I said, why? And he went, well, you won't stop crying. I said, well, I've been diagnosed with cancer. And he goes, well, what? So you need to start acting like you want to live, because right now you're acting like you want to die. Best words anybody could have ever said to me. And I stopped right there and I thought, he's right. What am I doing? I'm just taking up all this energy by crying all the time and feeling sorry for myself. So from then on, I decided to put 150% in. So getting back to my mother, whenever I did have those moments where I thought, I don't know if I can get through this, I would think about what Mum went through. She had a death sentence from day one. They're still, to this day, she's been gone, actually it's 25 years this weekend since Mum died. She never ever had hope. So she drew on, I've got to stay alive as long as I can and enjoy the time that I've got. So whenever I had a pity party, I would say to myself, you always have hope. No one said you're dead. Like, okay, we got down to about 10%, but I said to my oncologist, well, who are these people? Where did you find these people to get a 10% rate, And he just said, well, if anybody's going to make it through, it's going to be you. Because I never, ever thought I was going to die. It was put 150% into this and let's go. Let's make the most of this. So Mum helped me. I drew on Mum's strength to get me through So that's, it really, if you suck everything out of you from being miserable, you're not going to have any strength left to get through those tough days. And believe me, chemo, is no party. It's tough.
Yeah.
They have to kill you off to keep you alive.
Was it easy once you made that pivot? And what an incredible pivot, and what beautiful words that friend said to you. I had chills when you were telling the story. Was it easy then to build a community for you, that support system, because you were able to say, well, what did you say to your friends so that you could build that community?
Well, first of all, so I was living in Park City, Utah, amazing town. So, small community, no family in America, like one sister came over for 3 weeks, the next sister comes over for 3 weeks, and that was pretty much it. So I had to rely on my friends. And Park City was an amazing place to be. So I had this wonderful hospital to go to, at the Huntsman, but also I had the support of people in this community. There were people that were knocking on my door saying, hey, you don't know me, but we heard about you, and, do you need anything? Can we take you to the doctor? We made you something to eat or whatever. And I learnt so much about, people and how people want to help each other, even though we'd never ever met face to face. But one thing that I did learn is that my closest friends were not necessarily the people that could support me. Everyone, I learnt a lot about this. Everyone is made up differently, and everybody is on this earth for a different reason. Some people, it's like there's people that will never ever be able to be a nurse because they don't like blood. But there's other people that are amazing nurses. So everyone's very different. And in this case, there's many different people that just can't stop crying because their good friend, could die on them. And so what you got to do is you got to push them aside and go, okay, I'll get back to you later. But, hey, I've got these other people that are here that are, much stronger than you, and they're going to be there to help me get through this, and you're going to take care of me later when I'm at the next level. And I started to realise that with different people. So it didn't make them bad people. It just meant that they weren't equipped to manage what I was going through.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And it's funny because Josh and I were talking about this right before the show. I'm struggling a little bit, and I'm going to flip it on with the fact that I'm an extrovert, but when it comes to anything health related with me, I'm an introvert. I keep to myself. I don't really want to talk about it. I don't want to tell anybody. So when I went through this, I mostly went through it alone. I was going through a divorce, and my now ex-wife told me, oh, don't burden the kids with this. They didn't even know I was going through it. They actually were mad at me when they found out later everything I was going through. And I really didn't do that. I didn't have a community of people. I was very, very, very much alone. And now I'm going through sort of this active monitoring in my situation. And we were discussing, and I knew you were coming on, and because I wanted your opinion. And I feel like you came into my life for a reason to kind of coach me through this. And that is, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm not letting people in. And I expect people to maybe ask me what's going on with you, and then they don't. And I'm like, well, I don't want to burden them. So I'm just kind of stuck in this cocoon of, and it's interesting what you said is maybe they're not equipped, and you need to find the people that are equipped to help you. That I never, ever thought of that until this very moment. So, yeah, I'm not even asking a question. I'm just throwing out to you, like, does that surprise you, or is that what you saw with a lot of people that they sort of...
Mostly men. So men, without a doubt, just in general. And growing up in Australia, that's just the culture over there. You don't show your emotions. You don't talk about anything. And, it's pretty much worldwide as well. It's just that it's more prevalent in some countries. So, but having said that, I've definitely come across many females that don't talk about, what they're going through with cancer either. I just chose to talk about it because... it's great for me to hear you say that, because if I can help one person, well then, that's what makes me happy. And being stage 4, I want everybody to know that stage 4 is not a death sentence. And I'm still here, even though I had a low chance. But I got through it and, I'm here. So it's all about making a difference now for me. And if I can help, one person, that's how it is.
Well, you're doing that. So through your business now, it's not just about the jewelry life. You are on these cruise ships and in front of people telling
We should explain that a little bit.
telling
about
your
what she
journey.
does.
Yeah, yes. Explain what you do and how you now put the framework of what you went through into your business.
So when I was lying in hospital, I had plenty of time to think, and I just thought, I basically sort of like went, hey, whoever's up there, if you're listening, if you just let me get through this, I promise I'll give back. And I made a little pact with myself then. So my thing is that, you know, I want to be able to give back to the future. So the children are our future, and I do a lot of work with kids, especially in Bali, who have no resources, and, you know, there's cancer everywhere in the world. And so that's how I started out, you know, when, you know, I had cancer. I just wanted to be able to, you know, help.
Just framing your business around helping people. So when you talk, well, you mentioned that when you go in, you speak on cruise ships, you speak in different environments, and you tell your story.
Yeah, so once I started that, you know, and helping those kids and all of that, I also realised that, you know, one of the reasons why I ended up in hospital was probably because of stress. And stress is the biggest killer, without a doubt. And I had a very, very stressful job. At the time, you know, I'm 47, I'm travelling around the world, I'm like meeting all these people, and I thought I had this great life, but I was pretty much living on red wine, coffee, and chocolate, I think, you know, just to keep me going.
The big three.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then, you know, and it was very, very stressful, you know, working in the fashion industry and manufacturing for other people and so forth. So while I was in hospital making that little pact, I went, okay, from now on, my life's going to change. I want to wake up happy every day. I want to love what I do. And, you know, you hear people talk about running the life of, like, the movie of their life. And that's pretty much what I did. I lay there and I ran a movie of my life, and I said to myself, what makes you truly happy? And you have to be very, very honest with yourself, because most people will say, oh, my kids. I go, no, not the kids. No, forget about the kids. You know, what made you truly happy before you had the kids? What is it in there in your core that makes you truly happy? And for me, I'm like running the movie back, and sure enough, I'm like, oh, wow, that year was really great. Oh, I was doing this, I was doing that, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't until I got back to my teenage years when I was at school and I was making jewellery and I was, you know, spinning wool and making big sweaters and, you know, creating. And that's what I love to create. I'm just a natural at it. And I went, you know what? I've lost it, you know, I've sort of got into the other side of the business. I need to stop this and I need to start creating. As soon as I made that decision, I was introduced to somebody that was wearing a necklace with 8 pearls and leather on it. And I had this conversation with this woman who was out of town she was visiting Park City, and I had a collection in my head just from that one necklace. And that's when I started calling everyone around the world, because I had lots of connections. Hey, and mind you, I got no money, because, you know, when you get sick and you're on your own, you have no money. You got no money. I'm dead broke. So I called all my connections around the world, and they're all like, oh, my God, you're alive? And I'm like, yeah, hey, could you send me 200 pearls? Hey, can you send me some leather? You know, that type of stuff. I sat up in bed and started making this jewellery. And that's when I went into, wow, I'm so happy and I just love this. And that's my space. That's what I love. And to this day, you know, it's when I sit down and start making jewellery, that's what makes me really, really happy, where I get that calmness or the Zen feeling, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. That's what makes me truly happy.
I hope that our fans and our audience that's listening to this on the various channels will also tune into the YouTube channel, the Back Nine. Actually, there's no the Back Nine podcast, so that they can see what you're wearing, because it's gorgeous. You've got a lot of it on, and it's really, really exquisite stuff. But my question is, when you're sitting in your bed making the jewelry, do you think that's what saved your life?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because first of all, you know, to get through it, you have to go into some sort of calm, whatever it is that gets you to that space. Some people meditate, You know, some people go for walks along the beach. You know, mine was pretty much all of it. I ended up getting on a plane and going to Bali and, you know, meditating, walking on the beach, making jewelry, you know, whatever it took to stay absolutely calm in between treatments. And this was, you know, after I'd had I'd finished the big treatment and now I had to go away and come back in 3 months' time. Well, I truly believe that, you know, doing all of those things and being true to myself, but any people that I had around me that tried to dump any of their stuff on me, I would move away. I would, you know, just gently move away from those people and stay calm, stay in the Zen, stay. It's so important. You can't have drama around you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. So tell us about your latest adventure. Tell us, like, what the best thing you've done in terms of, you know, where you've been. I mean, because when we were talking, I mean, you literally are jet set. You live in Palm Beach, but how many days last year were you in Palm Beach? You said you're really all over the world. It's a cool story. We've been a little deep here. Give us some of the fun that you get to do now that you're recovered and on the other side of it. I mean, your life is very full.
That's for sure. Well, you know, there's days when I sort of think, oh, God, it'd be nice just to lie under an umbrella, you know, cocktail with one of those umbrellas in the cocktail, you know, that type of thing. And I do really try hard to do that, but my life is full of that. You know, I always say, be careful what you ask for, because I asked for this life and bloody hell, I got it. And so here I am traveling around the world. I love going to different, you know, countries around the world. I love meeting new people. I love all the cultures. You know, like, that's what makes me happy. I love it. And I pretty much understand a good portion of the world. When, you know, I go there, I know, you know, a lot of different cultures and spend a lot of time in India, especially, and
the joy of your life on the road, and you get to be in front of people and make people happy. You know, any kind of fashion or jewelry, you know, it lights people up if they get the right piece, right?
Yeah. So anyway, from making all that jewelry, I ended up connecting. My first store was a 5-star hotel, the Montage Hotel in Deer Valley. And they called me and I went up there and they gave me a big cabinet. And that day was one of the happiest days of my life. But I remember driving down the hill crying with joy because I just got my first store, but crying because I was thinking, how am I going to pay for it, you know? And that's when everyone came together and, you know, bought some pieces. And next thing I knew, I had enough and we filled that cabinet. But that's how it all started. And my second store was Montage Beverly Hills. And my third store was Montage Laguna Beach. So I thought I was, you know, big shit. Yeah. You know, I was like, oh, wow, I got 3 stores, you know, Montage and all that. But anyway, it pretty much went on like that. So next thing I knew, I was travelling. I was going down to Beverly Hills and I'd get to stay in the hotels. And I'd do trunk shows. I'd go down to Laguna Beach and do trunk shows down there. And Montage Hotels, I'll always be so grateful to them. Just, it was wonderful working with them. And from then on, you know, went on to other hotels. And like, I've just come from the Ritz-Carlton in Naples this morning doing a trunk show. And then fast forward over the years, that grew into, you know, high-end boutiques. And then just 1 year ago, I was offered an opportunity to do a trunk show on a cruise ship. And I'd never, ever really been on a cruise ship, you know, a couple of days, like, you know, 15 years before that. And I ended up on Seabourn, and which is, you know, if you haven't been on a cruise ship, that's definitely one of the ones that you need to go on. It's a luxury cruise ship, 500 people. And I joined that ship in Venice, Italy. It was on a grand voyage, so that ship wasn't returning to any place. It was moving forward, and for 6 weeks I was on that ship. And it's one of the best experiences of my whole life. I mean, really, every day I just, wow, how lucky am I? And, you know, there was a lot of hard work that went into it to get me to that point. But as I said, right from the start, that's what I was very clear about what I wanted and what I didn't want. And when I got on that ship last year, that's when I thought, wow, this is what life's about. You know, and the people on there were so lovely, and the staff and the places that we went. And I say to people, imagine checking into the Ritz-Carlton and everything is free. Your food and your drink is free every day. And every day you wake up to a different view of the water, and you're in a different, you could be in Italy or Spain or France or wherever, and you get to go and experience that, and you get back go back to your room in the Ritz-Carlton, so to speak, and off you go again. Well, imagine 6 weeks straight of that. So that's how amazing Seabourn was.
I'm happy to
Sign me up.
I'm happy to be her valet for this point. Do you still have the stores?
Yeah,
Yeah, great.
still sell to stores. COVID definitely changed everyone's lives, including mine, and we had to restructure a lot. The interesting thing is that before COVID, I never went live on Instagram or any of that. That's when that culture really started, because we were all forced to do it. So these days I do things a little bit differently. I don't have as many stores that I used to. However, the cruise ships have now taken over.
Right.
And last year I spent 6 months at sea. 3 of those were just with Seabourn, and I've gone on to Regent Seven Seas, which is another amazing one. And I just did a crossing with Queen Victoria on Cunard.
Wow.
And that was a great experience as well. So all of these new experiences that when I thought I'd done most of it, well, guess what? We've got some new ones,
Fantastic.
And Julie, Back Nine journey for you is solo. You are not married. Not to get too personal, you're not married.
Divorced. So when I got sick, I was on my own. And as I said, no family either, no children. So I've definitely had to rely on my friends and because I've been in America for 28 years and been away from the family in Australia, your friends are your family.
Everything, yeah.
They really are. And I've got wonderful friends around the world, but, my friends in America are definitely my family. Yeah.
I love that. And juliemiles.com is where people can find you.
That's right.
And the IG handle is, the Insta handle?
Julie Miles Love.
LOVE, not an abbreviation. Okay.
No, Julie Miles Love, because everything is about love.
Yeah, it is.
Very inspiring. Thank you so much for being on the show. Just a great way to cap the season. Josh and I will wrap up now, but thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Really an honor to
Charlie.
meet you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, buddy, there's so much to unpack here. That was a lot.
Yeah, before we get into all of the great stuff, there was so much great stuff here. There's one thing that Julie said that just where it fell in the conversation, it didn't fit to go back to it, which was that you talked about how men don't really open up or talk about this stuff. And you admitted that you didn't talk about all of this stuff. And that's
And I still really don't.
right. And that's partly
really.
why we're here, right? Is to help men realize that no matter whether we're talking about illness or relationships or whatever, we're all better if we can find the right group of people to talk to.
Do you remember how long it took me to we did the show for a long time before I even brought it up? And she hit on something that is the reason I brought it up. If I get one guy, I was 47 when I had what I now know is stage 2 cancer, not stage 4. It was, whatever. I don't need to get on all the details, but it had to be dealt with at 47 because it was only going to advance from there. So, but the reason I was only stage 2 is because I was actively getting checked out, and I was making sure I was very, very proactive at the time. So that's number one. The reason I started talking about it is because I do think that men in this community is a lot of men. And again, if just one person gets screened in their 40s or 50s sooner than they would have, and this helps them, then that's important to me. The other thing that this show has taught me is, and she reiterated, is this idea that stress, it was there, and stress caused it to come sooner. It was in the middle of my divorce. I had a crazy corporate stressful job that was burning me out at both ends of the day. I was drinking too much. There was just so many things that were in my life then when that popped that I realize now were a little bit self-inflicted. And when I talk about it now, and I know I may have a slight reoccurrence, we're just active monitoring it. But what it's done for me is I'm positively thinking that the diagnosis and what happened to me is going to make me live longer because I'm so much more conscious of so many health things in my life, integrative medicine, all of the extra things, stress management, things that I had no clue about, drinking less, all of those kinds of things. I'm way more aware of now than I would have been. And I am going to choose to believe that this diagnosis for me at a younger age than most guys is going to help me to live longer.
And so what's interesting about that, Dennis, first of all, that's fantastic. It's also one of the themes of the book that you bought for me for the holidays, which was recommended by someone who sat exactly where Julie has been sitting. Kian Lagi recommended it to us, the Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, talking about the science that's behind that, because there really is science behind it. We've been in a culture of our medicine is based on Newtonian physics, which is partly right, but not complete, and quantum physics as it applies to medicine, and the power of positivity and the power of belief and the power of our positive energy, which Julie represents and which you have adopted as well. It's the opposite of stress, right? So that is the healing agent, or the thing which prevents us or protects us from stress invading and causing disease and illness.
Yeah, and the other thing that I have to manage to manage stress is that we've talked about this, and this is a literal daily practice for me, and it's on my mind a lot, and that is you cannot be such a people pleaser. I mean, that
causes
part of
stress.
stress is from constantly thinking that you need to please other people instead of living your best life and letting the chips fall where they may. That's why I'm so deep in a book you gave me, Not to Worry, which is the Stoic behavior. Like, I am so engrossed in studying Stoicism now that it's like, it's a borderline obsession, because I meditate to it. I'm reading a book about it. And it's still not there. Like, I'm still a people pleaser. I'm still like fighting it all the time, but I'm trying hard. It's like a win when I don't do it.
Right. There's stuff that's buried in your subconscious from when you were little that's still there. Can I make one final point to end the show on? Talk to people on planes. Right, right. We've each found a great guest because we were open to or started a conversation with someone who was sitting next to us on a plane.
Well, we're also very spiritual, and we think that people are put in your life for a absolute purpose. And I don't think she often sits in comfort. I think she's usually up in first class and probably flying private a lot. So the fact that she sat next to me in Delta Comfort too, and not up in first class, was also serendipity, because I don't think that happens very often. And she had her dog Lulu on her lap, which we didn't even talk about. Beautiful, cute dog.
We was another positive in her favor. It's funny because I sat next to Deneen. She was on the window. I had an aisle seat, but the woman in the middle was an elderly woman. She was clearly in at least her 80s, and she asked if I would switch with her, and I said yes. That's the only reason I sat next to Deneen.
Amazing.
So same kind of stuff. The power of positivity, being aware of those energies.
That's it.
That matters for everything.
I think that's a perfect wrap on this season. Is be curious, stay open, and talk to people on planes.
Talk to people on planes. We will be back next week to wrap it up this season, make more of these cogent points with the 19th hole. But great guest, Dennis. Thank you for getting Julie. I'm inspired by this one.
Awesome. Definitely tune into the 19th hole, because that's where we wrap up the whole season, and we've got a lot to talk about.
See you next week on the Back Nine.